We're now going to do local clean tech success stories. Our first speaker for this session will be Aaron Clem, Energy Project Manager for the City of Huntington Beach. Aaron has been very involved with CleanTechOC over the last several months, and we're delighted to have him here today. As I said, Aaron serves as the Energy Program Manager for the City of Huntington Beach. He has 15 years' experience in energy management and sustainability and is responsible for developing Huntington Beach's energy and sustainability management programs. Prior to joining Huntington Beach, he was CSU's Energy Program Manager, and he was awarded SoCal Gas Company's 2010 Energy Efficiency Champion Award. Please join me in welcoming Aaron Clem.
Thanks to everybody for hanging in there. I realize it's been a long day in this room, so why don't we just go ahead and jump right in. The project I'm going to talk about here today was a retro commissioning project that the city did here that essentially replaced energy use in our buildings with a little bit of intelligence. So the overview on Huntington Beach here is they hired me in mid-08. We did a utility bill audit, had some great savings there, and we got into an energy efficiency partnership with Southern California Edison and SoCal Gas Company. Denise Tyrell here was from the PUC. The PUC has tremendous influence in how the utilities spend those funds, billions of dollars a year in spending those funds on energy efficiency. Without those funds, this project wouldn't have been possible just with local government dollars. So the first project was this retro commissioning the two largest facilities. We're going to talk about our Civic Center, which is about 200,000 square feet, which is a nice sized building, even if you just, if it's just an office building. Next slide, please. We're doing a bunch of other projects as well with some LED street lighting retrofits. I'm actually double timing it here today. I've got a street lighting conference going on in Huntington Beach here today, so we could talk about that. And we're working on some large-scale solar power purchase agreements that I know a bunch of folks are working on those here in Orange County. And then some other projects that I work on is like events like today where we sort of try to get regional and national cooperation on clean tech issues so that these things that make economic sense and environmental sense can get done on a much wider scale. Next slide, please. So there's our Civic Center. I mentioned it, about 200,000 square feet, built in 1974. Next slide, please. And it was using, this is getting pretty technical, we're not going to bore you, but it was using about 125,000 BTUs per square foot per year. The nationwide average for offices is 75,000, so obviously we had some opportunity there. Then we, go ahead, next slide, please. So we essentially got the utilities to buy off on incentives for retro commissioning this project, which is essentially putting smarter controls programming into the building. We spent about $265,000 on the project, and it had about a 200% return on investment for the city's dollars. Back one slide. I know it's late in the day here, but I got to tell this story. It's one of my favorite stories. I haven't been in the public sector my entire career, but the best guide, especially for the private sector folks, to remember when you're trying to schedule something with local governments is a rule of thumb that a person up in Sacramento taught me, which is to take what a project would take you in your private life, double it, and move up to the next time scale. So it takes a little while to get these things through the various public sector processes. Next slide, please. Some example inefficiencies here. Basically, the blue line shows the fans would come on in the morning, go full speed and run all day long despite having variable frequency drives on there that can turn them down. Go ahead and go to the next slide. Another example of the inefficiencies we have here is that this is a diagram of the control system. You can see that the chilled water is flowing through there at 100%, the valve is 100% open. So is the hot water valve. And, it got cut off. it was like a 65-degree outside air temperature day, and we were pumping hot and cold, full speed through both coils. This commissioning project basically fixed that, so you stopped making cold and making heat and then combining it in the zones and wasting hundreds of thousands of dollars a year between the two projects. Next slide, please. Some really no-brainers like patching holes in ductwork, which crop up from time to time, and it's not unique to Huntington Beach. It happens in all buildings and all systems. And then really putting the intelligence into the system to sample the building conditions, the outside air conditions, and use just enough energy to provide comfort to the zones. Next slide, please. I've got an economic slide in here. I'm sure of it. More information on the energy savings. Basically, it was about 1 million kilowatt hours a year that we shaved out of the building operations, which just on the electricity side is, $120,000 a year, which is not exactly, in this budget environment for local governments, is a significant amount of money. Next slide, please. Too much detail here. A bunch of independent little measures, and then the natural gas savings as well. That was fine. Next slide is good. Natural gas savings as well. By eliminating that simultaneous heating and cooling, we saved a ton of money for the city. Next slide, please. More. Next slide, please. All right. Here's the business proposition, if you will. 2 minutes. Awesome. We're almost there. This is the main slide. So by retro-commissioning the Civic Center, we got a comprehensive building tune-up with about a $250,000 budget. It was 70% paid for by utility incentives because these energy savings were so high. So the PUC's $1 billion a year that Edison gets to spent it on Huntington Beach's project and saved about $150K in annual utility savings and a 200% return on investment. In most instances, particularly when there's not an active energy management program, these opportunities are lying on the sidewalk, the $100 bill lying on the sidewalk. And then the projects are important to maintain those savings over time. Next slide, please. And I don't know that we want to do any questions now. No questions. All right. So I think we're done. All right.
Okay, Aaron, thank you very much. That was terrific. Our next speaker is Mayor Miguel Pulido of Santa Ana, who, in addition to being the mayor of Santa Ana, also serves as co-chair of CleanTechOC. Mayor Pulido has been a major force in the renaissance and redevelopment of the city of Santa Ana. He's currently serving his 6th term as mayor. He's been a leader on the city council for the past 23 years. He serves on a variety of national, state, and regional boards. He is Orange County's city representative to the AQMD, and also recently was appointed to chair the Energy Committee of the U.S. Conference of Mayors. He's played a pivotal role in the formation of CleanTechOC, and we're just delighted to have him here today. So please join me in thanking him for coming.
Thank you, Greg. It's exciting to be here today because as I look at what we're doing in this organization, we're doing things nobody else is doing. And one of those is just bringing people that are at cutting-edge technologies together and bring them together to fast-forward the future. As I look at our city and I look at the region as a whole, I see a lot of missed opportunities, a lot of things that we're beginning to do better. As in my role that Greg mentioned as chair of the Energy Committee for the U.S. Conference of Mayors, I have the opportunity to see things that are going on across the country. And I'll just tell you that there's a revolution taking place. And that revolution is both analytical, where folks are looking at all this data and how to merge it with the internet, and then changing everything that data touches. And so I get a chance to see cities like Chicago where they're looking at very high density and trying to look at that density from a carbon footprint standpoint, from an efficiency standpoint, if you will. And from a standpoint of where they're trying to figure out if they do something differently, what does that do? So as I look at Santa Ana and Orange County and beyond, I see that if we're planning a transit system or we're planning, to build some buildings, how can you do it in such a fashion that on a long-term basis we're going to be more efficient? Of course, in our buildings, in general, we're very efficient because of Title 24 and all the things we've done here in California, so much so that, before LEED certified buildings or anything else was invented, we're already basically at a 50% level compared to the national average. But not that we should pat ourselves on the back a whole lot, because we can do much better than that. I mean, Aaron just showed you a building where we had, very antiquated HVAC system that unfortunately is not that uncommon for buildings built, during those eras. But as we look into the future, we can just do more and more and more. Part of what we're looking at right now are, for example, energy storage systems. And by energy, I'm talking mainly about electricity. I think in the very near future, we're going to see throughout most areas where we have fixed loads, the ability to store enough capacity, to influence the peak demands of whatever that load may be. I'll tell you, we're a little bit behind in this country right now, but there's several of us that are trying to fast forward that curve. In China, there's a company called BYD that already has a 50 megawatt application at a particular substation. Here we're still in the 250 to 500 kW, but it's approaching $2 a watt all in. And as that happens, it's just going to make sense for a whole lot of folks to get into it in a very big way. And by a whole bunch of folks, I'm talking about folks like Walmart, for example, and using them in their stores. I'm talking about hotels. I'm talking about city hall buildings, school buildings. Anywhere where we have a load that's above 100 kilowatts, 500 is preferable. This technology is going to be there. Also, the better management of our buildings. We're trying to now, work with the Edison company in order to be able to do real-time pricing on electrical consumption so that we're really aware of the cost with 1-minute headways and do it in such a fashion that we really stress efficiency. And as I was walking in here, I saw that, plug-in hybrid that's out there. I'll tell you, I've had the privilege of driving one now since September of 2006. And I have close to 200,000 miles. And as I speak to folks and say, look, we really need to fast forward the future, many of these technologies that are not only here, they've been here. And they're working very well. At OCTA, where we've converted many of our buses from diesel to natural gas, there was a lot of skepticism for a long time. As a board member there, I had to push and I had to articulate the case that basically said, look, natural gas as a fuel source has been around a whole long time, and it's proven technology. Yes, we had to do a few hiccups because there was those that said, well, maybe you need liquid natural gas, LNG, because of range issues. And I kept saying, the lower pressure is better. I think CNG is plenty. Turns out to be the case, and today, anytime you see a vehicle here in Orange County, it's natural gas. We have 727 of them now. And I'm very proud to serve on that board with Bill Campbell that I'll see sitting here on the front row. He serves with me not only on OCTA, but also on the South Coast AQMD, Air Quality Management District. Reason I believe that is important is often at the Air District, we come up with rules that if they're good rules, allow society to become more efficient. Turns out that as you're trying to clean up the air and reduce NOx or SOx or, have air that we can all breathe, which is an important thing, if you do it well, you also become more energy efficient at the same time. And ultimately, whether it's a fuel cell in the right building with the right application or simply a better use of a fuel source or cleaner fuel, we can make a huge difference.